August 9th, 2024. RG Carr Medical College in Kolkata. It's hard to even process, isn't it? A place meant for healing,
Mm-hmm.
becoming the scene of such a horrific crime. A 31-year-old trainee doctor raped and murdered
Mm.
inside a seminar hall.
It sent shockwaves, understandably, just utter disbelief across the country.
Yeah, absolute outrage. And it really threw a harsh spotlight on the dangers healthcare workers face daily, especially women in medicine.
Absolutely. It shattered that basic sense of security, didn't it? The idea that healers themselves should be safe. It forced a very uncomfortable look at their working reality.
Totally. And the public reaction was immediate, intense. The central government stepped in, facing all that anger, and they promised something big.
Yeah.
A new legal shield.
Right. A robust framework to protect doctors, nurses,
Right.
prevent this from happening again. That was the promise.
Exactly. But now,
Yeah.
fast forward, it's May 5th, 2025.
Mm.
And that shield,
Still a promise.
still the draft.
It just...
A draft. It exists on paper, sure, but it's not actually protecting anyone. It's basically a paperweight right now.
Yeah.
Strong idea, zero real-world defense.
And that's the frustrating part, isn't it? You see this initial surge of action after a tragedy,
Yeah.
but then the legislative gears grind so slowly, the momentum just fades.
And that's what we need to dig into today. Why hasn't this law happened? What's holding it up?
What does it mean for the people working on the front lines right now without that protection?
Exactly. And why isn't this still front-page news?
Yeah.
It feels like it should be. To get it, we really need to revisit that night in Kolkata. The
Yeah.
details were just brutal.
Horrific. And the initial police response, well, that didn't help matters.
No, it really didn't. They were slow to even register the case properly, weren't they? Called it an unnatural death at first.
Which immediately sparked accusations, cover up, lack of agency. It eroded trust right from the start.
Massively. It got so bad the Supreme Court stepped in directly,
Mhm.
took suo motu cognizance, they called it.
And their language was strong, horrific, extremely disturbing. That tells you how serious the initial failures were perceived.
Definitely. Eventually, the CBI took over the investigation. They arrested someone, a civic volunteer.
Sanjay Roy, yeah. But questions remain. People wondered if he acted alone, if there was more to it.
And the public in Kolkata, they weren't quiet. Huge protests. People from everywhere.
The junior doctors were central to that, weren't they, going on strike?
Yes. Demanding justice, obviously, but also demanding safer workplaces. A basic right, really.
A completely understandable demand, though that strike itself became controversial.
Right. The West Bengal government claimed, 23 patient deaths because of the strike?
Yes, a claim the doctors strongly rejected. They saw it as an attempt to shift blame, to distract from their core safety concerns.
Which just added another layer of tension to an already awful situation.
It really did.
Yeah.
Pitting doctor safety against immediate patient needs, a difficult position.
But two things did come out of that initial period. The Supreme Court set up that national task force,
The 10-member NTF, yeah. Tasked with creating safety protocols.
and the central government made that big promise, the new law. For a moment, it felt like, okay, maybe real change is coming.
And the proposal itself, it sounded good. Really comprehensive.
What were the key parts again?
Well, stricter penalties for anyone attacking medical staff, mandatory security measures in hospitals, and a national standard, a protocol for prevention, particularly focused on women's safety, too.
Sounds like exactly what's needed, like a blockbuster plan.
Absolutely, but
Here we are, May 2025, and it's still just a plan, a draft, gathering dust somewhere.
it hasn't made it through the legislative process. It's providing zero practical protection.
And that national task force, the one meant to guide safety implementation.
Apparently, it hasn't even met since early September last year, September 2024.
Seriously. That speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the lack of momentum?
It really does. And all those practical ideas, CCTV, security guards, safe rest areas, especially for night shifts.
Especially in rural areas.
Exactly. For most hospitals, those are still just ideas, not reality.
And this isn't some minor issue. Remember that IMA study from 2024?
75%. 3/4 of doctors in India recording verbal or physical abuse at work.
75%.
Yeah.
That's staggering. It highlights just how desperately needed this protection is. It's not theoretical.
It's a daily reality for so many.
So, okay, why the delay? What are the roadblocks?
Well, there are a few layers, it seems. First, just the general pace of, bureaucracy in India.
Yeah, it can be notoriously slow. Drafting laws, debates, parliament implementation across all states, it takes time.
A lot of time. And it seems this law, despite the initial outcry, might have gotten a bit lost in the shuffle. Competing priorities, maybe.
Maybe. Then there's the whole center state thing, right?
Right, exactly. Healthcare is a state subject under the Constitution, so the center can propose a law.
But they need the states to actually buy in and implement it.
Precisely. And states might have their own ideas, their own priorities, like we saw with West Bengal's approach. That can cause friction, delays.
Makes sense. So federalism complicates things.
It adds another layer of complexity, definitely. Getting everyone on the same page takes effort and political will.
And maybe this just hasn't stayed a top priority. We see big events, other initiatives getting attention.
While healthcare workers' safety seems to have slipped down the agenda,
Which feels wrong, given the stakes.
it raises serious questions, doesn't it, about priorities. When such a huge part of your essential workforce feels unsafe, ignoring that sends a pretty bleak message.
Yeah. Let's shift focus a bit. Think about the doctors themselves. Day to day.
The sheer pressure.
Imagine working a 36-hour shift, which is just insane in itself.
Exhausting.
And on top of that, carrying this constant background fear, this worry about violence from patients or families.
It's a heavy burden, and Kolkata tragically wasn't a one-off.
No, we hear stories from all over. That doctor assaulted in Assam in 2019.
After a patient died, yeah. Or the nurse harassed in Delhi in 2023.
And those are just the ones that make the news. The IMA documented over 1,500 cases a year.
And that's likely just the tip of the iceberg, right? So many probably go unreported. Fear, maybe? Or just feeling like nothing will be done.
Probably a bit of both. And think about women doctors specifically. The Supreme Court asked that question about workplace equality.
A very pointed question.
If women aren't safe, especially working nights in understaffed places with poor security, how can we talk about equality?
The RG car case itself showed that vulnerability starkly. A seminar hall with no CCTV, no proper locks, no regular security checks.
It's like an open invitation for something terrible to happen. And that lack of basic security isn't unique to that one hospital, is it?
Sadly, no, particularly when you look at rural areas.
Right, that NTI-OG report.
Yeah.
60% of rural facilities lacking adequate infrastructure.
60%. Imagine being a doctor there. Juggling patients, angry crowds sometimes, potential violence, with almost no backup.
The stress must be immense, constant.
And in those chaotic, under-resourced places, frustrations can boil over easily, can't they? Long waits, maybe confusion, desperation.
And the doctor or nurse becomes the target, even though they're often just as stressed and overworked as everyone else.
Exactly. Misdirected anger.
So looking back at RG Carr, it really does magnify these broader system failures, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Start with the police response again. The delay in filing the FIR, calling it unnatural death.
The Supreme Court really hammered them on that.
And rightly so. Then there were those reports about leaked CCTV, unauthorized people at the crime scene.
Yeah, that fueled all the cover-up suspicions, people thinking evidence was being tampered with.
And the fact the former principal was questioned later about that, and even about possible financial issues. It just added more layers of doubt and unease.
So the public anger wasn't just about the crime, horrific as it was also about feeling like the system was failing, maybe even trying to hide things.
Precisely. Even when the chief minister held a rally for justice, some critics accused the government of trying to protect people.
It became very political very quickly.
And while police arrested people for vandalism later, that didn't really address the core issue, did it? The demand for justice in the original crime.
No. And the CBI is still investigating, even after charging Sanjay Roy. Suggests they think there might be more to it.
A wider conspiracy, perhaps.
The protests in Kolkata, though, there was something else, that big march in September 24.
Incredible scenes. Students, doctors, ordinary people like rickshaw pullers, all marched in together.
That showed real solidarity, didn't it? And the victim's mother saying the protesters were her children. Just heartbreaking.
So powerful. And the junior doctors forming human chains, singing the national anthem.
Even defying the Supreme Court's order to go back to work.
It showed how deep their anger and frustration went. They weren't backing down.
And their demands were specific, weren't they? Remove the police commissioner, sack health officials.
Demands for accountability at the top, reflecting that complete loss of trust.
And most of those demands still unmet today.
Which brings us back to why this legal shield is stalled. It seems to boil down to a few key things.
Okay, let's break it down. Reason 1.
Bureaucratic inertia. Just the sheer slowness of the system. The draft law is caught in consultations revisions.
And the National Task Force seems to have gone dormant.
Exactly. No driving force pushing it forward.
Reason 2. The center-state dynamic we talked about.
Yeah. Healthcare being a state subject means the center can't just impose it. States like West Bengal might resist or delay, fighting local challenges.
Creating bottlenecks.
Definitely. Reason 3, money. Or a lack of it.
Resources, right. Putting CCTV everywhere, hiring guards, panic buttons, that cost serious money.
A lot of money. And India's public health budget, around 1.3% of GDP in 2024, it's already stretched thin compared to other countries.
So finding extra funds for security is a massive challenge.
A very significant hurdle. Then there's maybe a cultural aspect.
What do you mean?
Well, the violence often comes from public frustration with the whole system, right? Overcrowding, long waits, costs.
And doctors become scapegoats.
Exactly. A law can't fix that underlying frustration. It's deeper than just needing a new rule.
That's a really important point. And finally,
Lack of awareness, even about existing laws. There are sections in the Penal Code meant to protect public servants, including doctors.
like sections 332 and 353.
Right. But they're rarely used. People don't know about them or how to use them effectively. Police might not prioritize enforcing them in these situations.
So a new law is only part of the solution. We need awareness and enforcement too.
Precisely. It's a complex puzzle.
Okay, so if we agree this situation is unacceptable, what needs to actually happen? We need a real plan, not just talk.
Absolutely. First and foremost, get that law passed. Fast track it.
Stop the delays.
Yes. Finalize it, get it through Parliament, make the penalties clear, the security protocols mandatory, and set firm deadlines for implementation everywhere. No more, we're working on it.
And back it up with funding.
Crucial. A dedicated budget for security upgrades, CCTV, guards, safe rooms, prioritizing rural and underserved areas that need it most.
Not just the big city hospitals.
Definitely not. Then training, lots of it. Doctors need training in de-escalation techniques. Police need training on how to handle hospital violence properly, sensitively.
And the public.
Public awareness campaigns help people understand the pressures doctors are under, build empathy,
Makes sense. And what about women doctors specifically?
Targeted protections, safe transport, secure duty rooms, zero tolerance for harassment. Address that Supreme Court question head on.
Make workplace equality a reality, not just a slogan.
Exactly. And finally, we have to tackle the root causes.
The systemic stuff.
Yes, underfunding. Staff shortages, remember, that NTI-IOG call for 2 million more doctors by 2030.
Wow. 2 million.
It shows the scale of the problem.
Yeah.
High costs, too. Fixing these fundamental issues will reduce public frustration, which in turn should reduce violence.
It all connects back.
It really does.
That Kolkata tragedy, it wasn't just about one doctor. It echoed with healthcare workers everywhere.
It tapped into that widespread feeling of being unsafe, undervalued.
These are the people we rely on.
Yep.
In pandemics, floods, crises, like that recent Pahalgam attack. They're always there.
And they deserve so much better than feeling vulnerable and getting broken promises.
The public support in Kolkata was amazing to see. That's solidarity.
It was powerful. But it can't be just that. We need a deeper shift.
Also,
Moving away from seeing doctors as targets for anger and really recognizing them as individuals doing a tough job under immense strain.
more empathy, less blame.
Exactly. And the media has a role too. Focus on solutions, not just the shocking incidents. Hold power accountable.
Because how a government treats its healers, that says a lot, doesn't it?
It's a measure of its commitment. And right now, the failure to enact this law, it's a worrying sign. It suggests their safety isn't the priority it absolutely needs to be.
So we circle back to that image. The legal shield is a paperweight.
Looks good, sounds good, does nothing.
And the cost of that inaction is real. It weakens the whole healthcare system.
Which affects everyone, right? This isn't just a problem for doctors. It's a problem for all of us. A system where staff live in fear can't function properly.
So what can people listening do? It feels kind of helpless sometimes.
It doesn't have to be. Make your voice heard. Contact your elected officials, MPs, MLAs. Tell them this matters.
Share the story. Talk about it.
Yes. Support groups working on this. Demand accountability. Let the government know people are watching and that healthcare worker safety is non-negotiable.
And maybe something simpler, too.
Absolutely. Next time you're in a hospital or a clinic, just take a moment, thank the staff, the doctors, the nurses, everyone. Acknowledge their work, the pressure they're under.
A little gratitude goes a long way.
It really can. Because this legal shield, ultimately, it's more than policy. It's a basic promise of safety.
The promise that's currently broken.
And until it's fulfilled, our healthcare system remains vulnerable. Building a stronger, safer system, that's on all of us. We have a collective responsibility here.